Hello everyone. I thought you might like to see how I made my LED lit 3D scene Christmas decoration snow globe. To do it, I took 4 circles of 9cm white card, one hole for the top, a rim to make a washer for it, the base, which is another 9cm with a 5cm hole in the middle, and again another one to add a washer to reinforce it. I took a strip of A4 card, 4.5cm wide, and I then scored it. Now I scored it at 0.5 centimetre in from each side before cutting along the score line for the full length of the card, and also making little notches. A bit tedious, but it's the way that you're going to get the perfect circle, which is what you want to make that all-important base for your decoration LED lights. Now you'll end up with a piece that looks like this, and what I like to do is, rather than just have a plain piece of card, I like to decorate it, and in this instance I've decided to emboss it, and I'm using a little Cuttlebug border Christmas folder which has got holly and is very pretty, and I'm going to use it twice, one at one end and then turn it round and use it at the other, being careful to make sure that the embossing faces up the right way on both sides and overlapping the pattern nicely. So to do it, I use my Big Shot on embossing plate, which is tab number 1, feed it in and then roll it through the Big Shot. I usually do it twice because I find that gives a nice clean impression. Turn it round, make sure it's the right way, and then run it through the Big Shot for the other side, and again I'll do it twice, and you'll get a very nice pattern on your paper. So that is now ready to attach to the base, but firstly I do have to just bend all those notches I've made, and of course it's along the scored line so they bend very easily. I then stick the base first, putting PVA glue on the notches. Little tedious to get started, but once it starts fixing the first few it's easy to add the others, and you can get a very nice even circle all the way around, adding glue as you go and folding over those notches onto the base, pressing down firmly and just adding a little glue to take the side. I then take the top with its inner washer, which I thread through those notches, and then fold them up a bit because I'm going to be putting PVA glue on the inside of them. So as you can see, I'm doing the glue, and you need to do it all the way around. Then bring your inner washer up to meet those notches, and you'll get a very nice flat surface right at the top of your sides, and it's quite even. So you just go around doing that. I turn it over and just give it a little press. On this instance I caught one of them, so I had to repair it, but then leave it to dry. When it's dry, I trim off any notches that overhang a little bit round the inner rim, and then it's ready to take the top. And the top I will have made a central hole in with a sharp probe because I'll be feeding the LED lights through that, but it's all ready to roll. The next thing I do is to take a sharp scalpel and slice a little slit about 4 centimeters long to accommodate some card, which I have cut out and I'm going to be using part of to make a frame to attach the central decoration. Inside the box itself is the longer piece of the card, which I fold over and secure firmly to the base using PVA glue. That way it enables the frames on the upper side to stand up straight and to receive the decoration. Now the decoration, I cut out 3 circles for each side in white card, making rims with an 8 centimeter circle of black to go in the middle. I'm making a mock-up here of my designs for both sides. This one is going to be the shepherds in the field, and I've got the star, and I've got a bit of tree, and I've got the Bethlehem silhouette, and I used 2 of the white circles stuck together just to give an impression of depth right at the back there, and adding another little outline to make Bethlehem just that little bit larger and deeper. I do the same for the manger scene on the other side, putting the star on the back piece and then having the barn on the inner ring, which I will stick onto the back piece, and then adding Mary, Joseph and baby Jesus to the outer rim, before adding the barn to the furthest out one to give that good sense of depth, which is what we want. So stick them all in place, trim any excess, and you're ready to roll. Now check your LED lights are working before threading them through a hole which you'll have drilled in the base, or in my case I got my husband to drill through the base of my wooden part of my glass dome, and I'm going to attach the battery and switch with Velcro dots later. But in the meantime, I want to feed these LED lights around the inner part of the decoration. As you see, I've put little straws around the edges, they'll act as spacers, and I've used my probe to make holes in the sky because that'll be stars when the LED lights are lit. So with the wire, I just fold it round and check where I want it to be, and I'm probably only going to use 4 or 5 of the 10 string LED lights inside that central decoration, and I fix them in place using little double-sided foam dots, double-sided sticky foam dots, 0.5 centimeters by 0.5. And what I really do want to do is make sure that I get one of the LEDs firmly over the hole, which is going to align with the big star, because obviously that's got to be the brightest. So then, using more dots, and it's easier with the lights on to see where you want to be and just turn it round and have a look, and then fix them in place using as many little sticky dots as you need. And in fact, I found that sometimes they ping off, and in which case I'll just use tiny strips of sellotape to hold the wire in place, making sure not to occlude any of the holes I've made for my stars. So just carry on with those little foam dots until you've got the lights in place and where you want them to be. You can then use that, you'll feed your wire down and it'll go into the base box, which I realise at this point I hadn't attached. I should have threaded it through. Wooden base followed by circle box followed by the decoration. So after I'd finished doing this bit of video, I had to unpeel the wires from those sticky dots and redo it, making sure that the base box was actually firmly in position. But at least I realised what I'd done before I'd got too far to make any changes. So I will be just making sure that the decoration stands up. I will stick that one with the light still on to one side of the card frame, and then I will stick the other one. And here you can see why the straws act as spacers. It's to allow room for the LED lights to shine through. And then I am going to stick them in place, and in fact the straws weren't quite deep enough for where I'd positioned my frame, so I added a couple of sticky dots as well, and I've got a rim of depth of about 1 centimetre in the middle there, and I just used the elastic bands to stop them popping off while I was attending to the outer pieces, which I'm going to stick to the front of each side. So this first one is the manger scene, and again using my little double-sided sticky dots, I put plenty of them around on the inner side before fixing it and making sure that the barns line up really well, the stable in this case. And you can use elastic bands yet again to just hold them in place. So check that that looks fine, which it does, and now I'll turn my attention to the other one, which is the shepherds in the fields, and again putting sticky dots on before fixing it in place. And now I've got a central scene that is probably around 1.5 to 1.8 centimeters in diameter, and obviously doesn't look terribly aesthetic, and so I'm going to want to cover that. And first of all, I do stick the base because it's useful. I use PVA glue for everything, and I'm going to stick it to the wooden base because it's much easier to work on the central decoration now with everything firmly in. So I fed the remaining lights into that central box, and before attending and cutting out a strip of card 2 centimeters wide and to the length from one base to the other base, and I checked that and it was about 25.5 centimeters on mine. I don't want the light to shine through where the straws and the foam dots are, so I cover the middle with 1 centimeter strip of black sticky back plastic, which prevents the light coming through where I don't want it, and then I stick it in place using PVA glue and just cover and make a neat hood for my decoration. I then turn my attention to the main decoration in the field, and this one is going to be the shepherds, and I use wavy edge is to create little hillocks and bumps, and I'm sticking a sheep onto one of those little hillocks. So For the ground, I've got some Christmas tree dies which have nice indented sort of hole shapes in them, and I can cut them using my circle ones, and they make a lovely cover for those notches which otherwise shine through your card. And in fact, by doing it roughly, it can make a very nice looking naturalistic ground effect. And so I'm taking little bits, almost like crazy paving, and sticking them in place, but making sure I've got a neat circular edge for the end. And as you see, some of the light does come through and it makes a good effect, but you're not actually seeing the notches. Now I'm go back to my figures, and I'm going to put shepherds and sheep working from the back to the front. The figures sometimes stand up very easily with PVA glue, other times you might need a little bit of foil just to bolster them together and hold them upright while they stick. So I'm adding a sheep there, and it's just about staying in place without the foil. I then turn my attention to the front piece, which is another little hillock with shepherd and sheep, and I'm sticking that to the very edge of the circle so that it forms a neat border. It sometimes needs a little bit of pressure just to make sure it stays put, but once it's stuck, it's absolutely firm. I've then added some little bits of shrubbery from dies that I've had for other scenes, and I've added a final little sitting sheep at the front. In retrospect, I probably over-decorated it, but doesn't make quite such a neat shadow box effect, but it's still very pretty. But when it turned my attention to the back, as you can see, I've used again bits of the Christmas tree chopped up to make a nice rough paving in front of the stable. I've kept it more simple this time. I've got some little fence pieces at the back which I've stuck leaning out from the stable, and then I'm just going to put the three kings, the camel and the donkey on the front scene, so it'll be nice and crisp and clean. And so that is a kneeling king. I'm then going to have a standing king, and then the final bit that I'll do when that is firmly in position is to add the third king, who's still riding on his camel and hasn't quite arrived yet. So he goes on the very front, and I just make sure that I get PVA glue on his feet and that he sticks right on the edge, because I want him to make him look as if he's on the ground rather than resting around the side of the box. And then the final thing that I'm going to add is, of course, the donkey. No nativity scene is complete without the donkey, and I affix him in just the same way as the camel. And I think it looks really neat and probably less cluttered than the other side, much as I like the other side. So I still think that the box with the LED lights in at the bottom needs a little bit more decoration, so I've cut out 4 angels, and they're going to fly around the sides, and I'm going to put one in each quadrant, fixing them with PVA glue. You don't need to stick them right the way along. Having them sticking out a bit gives another sense of depth, which I think is all important when you're trying to create a 3D-like scene. So I can cover up the seam where the sides meet, and another angel goes in place there. And then I am going to, once she's firmly stuck, I'm going to add another one to the back, which is the center of the shepherd's field, and no shepherd scene is complete without an angel. So she's going on this time below them as compared to up in the sky. And then the fourth one will just go at the final part of the 4th quadrant and just stuck in place. And basically I've now got a scene that looks 2 different scenes. You can turn your globe round to enjoy scenes on different times of the different days, and it's all going to look really quite neat and very pretty in this monochrome effect. And of course, with your lights on, you've got the bright stars shining in the sky and the little ones just twinkling. So I think it's quite effective. The only thing that I feel needs to be done still is to just decorate the outer rim of that central decoration. And to do that, I've taken little bits of a Marianne Designs Wintertide snow globe inner, and I've cut out what I think are probably shooting stars in the sky, but they make a rather nice decorative border down the plain card that I've affixed round. So the net result is you can have a snow globe to enjoy as a Christmas decoration at home, not too difficult to make, and the LED lights really make it. If you want to know more, then do have a look at my blog on www.jessdelia.com